on.
Yep.
Okay, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First order of business is to accept the minutes from the June 10th meeting. Has everybody looked at them? Any comments, any changes, corrections?
I make a motion to approve the
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have 3 public hearings today. We have one is a request by Dana and Eric McKenna seeking relief from the Newmarket Town Code, Section 32-89, Dimensions Table, to permit the construction of a garage within the side yard setbacks on real property with an address of 18 Prescott Street, Tax Map U, Lot 29, located in the R4 zoning district. Is anyone here to speak to that? Let's have at it. The floor is yours.
Okay. I'm Dana McKenna.
You're better speaker than
We are proposing this variance acceptance because we have, right now, we have 2 temporary structures that are canvas. What do we call them? Yeah. And they're meant to be temporary. We've had them for many years, and they're not in good working order now, and we'd like to build a garage in order to protect our cars. The neighborhood is really unique. There's a lot of ledge. The houses are built close together. It's very old. It's a beautiful neighborhood if you've never been up there on the corner of Prescott and Mount Pleasant Street. There's really no other place to put it, so this is at the end of the driveway. We've also had a lot of hardships because of the way that the neighborhood is built. So there's a lot of tree limbs that fall on the car. We've had significant damage to our vehicles. Even with these canvas shelters, in storms, sometimes big tree limbs rip right through it. And we've had to replace them multiple times. File insurance claims because the amount of damage. We've had mice in the cars. Is there anything else?
Okay. Are there any abutters here that, have all the abutters been notified?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any of them here that want to speak to it?
Yeah, sure. I'm the abutter.
Yeah, you just come up to the
I've written a
microphone.
letter I'd like to submit.
Sure.
And I'll read it if you don't mind.
Yeah, you want to read into the record and pass out copies?
Sure.
That'd be great.
Here, or can I
Yeah.
pass it direct?
Yeah, pass it to
All right.
us. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I'll pass it on.
I
Yeah.
have my own copy. When you're ready.
Have at it.
All right. To the members, I'm submitting this letter as a show of support for the proposed variance requested by my neighbors, Dana and Eric, of 18 Prescott Street. My name is Daniel Clapp, and I'm the owner of the adjacent property on 11 Mount Pleasant Street, of which the subject side yard setback is designed to protect. I fully support the proposed placement and construction of this 2-car garage and encourage the members of the board to vote in favor of this variance. Frankly, I hope that you guys voting on this request either physically have seen the existing conditions or have reviewed a picture, not just looked at the submitted survey plan, because I think in this case a picture is worth 1,000 words. So to elaborate on that, I fully support the placement and construction of the garage because the resulting structure would be nothing less than a significant upgrade to the existing conditions. Compared to the existing decomposing carports, the new garage would look magnitudes better, it would smell better, it would protect their vehicles better, and it would no way infect my house or alter the character of our awesome neighborhood. Speaking of the character of our neighborhood, I believe the neighborhood is unique, and another good reason for the voting members to get eyes on the existing conditions. The neighborhood is tucked away. It's very tiered, mountain-esque, if you will, and dense. Division, subdivision of these lots have been happening since the 1870s, if not beyond then, or earlier than that. As an employee of Chinberg Builders, I certainly understand and appreciate the value and functionality of site setbacks. However, in this case, and in the same breath, I'm reminded of the true purpose of a variance request and how both processes are designed to provide balance and flexibility. So given the existing conditions and the physical nature of the specific neighborhood and location, I truly hope this variance is approved by the voting members of this board. So just to quickly conclude, my name is Daniel James Clapp, and I'm the direct abutter who would be in closest proximity to the proposed new two-car garage. So given the significant upgrade that this garage represents and the added level of security and protection that the physical structure would provide and the unique dense nature of our neighborhood, I fully support the proposed placement and construction of this garage and encourage the members of this board to vote in favor of this variance. I provided my phone number and I'm happy to elaborate to anyone who has questions. And thank you to you for making Newmarket better by serving on this board.
I'm a little bit remiss. I should have opened it up to public comment, which this did, so that was about 7:05. So, is there anyone else that would like to speak to the question? That being said, let's open it up to the board and find out what your thoughts are.
No issues for me.
I've plowed that area. I know what it's about, so.
I think I've seen it.
No, this is a long time ago.
Thanks for doing it. It's hard.
Al, Wayne?
I have a hard time wrapping my head around this being a hardship. If you read the criteria that we're required to follow, it's very specific where it says the hardship will only be granted owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. Denial of the variance would result in a unnecessary hardship. So again, I focus on the property itself. What is it about the property that would qualify it for a variance? If, for example, you were looking for a variance to put a garage in another area because there's ledge in the area that it's proposed to be, that would be an unnecessary hardship. But simply the fact that simply because of the fact that you want to add another fixed property in an area that it doesn't qualify for, doesn't ring the hardship bell for me.
Well, may I?
Sure.
I think that is part of the hardship for us, is that there is no, you can see by the site survey, that there is no other place on the property to have the structure. You know, our cars are our way to get to work. They're our livelihood.
Yeah.
They're very, cars, automobiles are very expensive, and we need to protect the way that we access our livelihood.
Yeah, and I fully understand it. And I often, by the way, have trouble with this. This is not a unique situation. So I have comments from other folks.
I hear what you're saying, Al, but I see it as a little bit different.
Okay.
That the size of the lot, the configuration of the lot, the overall terrain kind of come together and all together come and make the hardship there, and that they're looking to improve the lot, I have absolutely no problem with it.
Also because of the density of the neighborhood and the age of the neighborhood. I mean, it's one of the original, neighborhoods from Newmarket. And, many people in this community know it fondly as Pork Hill. There was pig farms back there in the 1800s. And the trees are very beautiful and old and are not all on our property. So it's not even that we could just trim some trees and have, less damage.
Is there another place on the property where the garage could go?
No.
Even the surveyor had mentioned that too. He's like, you really have nowhere else to put it. Being on a corner, there's just nowhere to put it.
I fully understand the dilemma, I do.
And there's some pretty good slope issues out there too, so. All right, do we want to close the discussion and
Is there any other questions that I can answer for you?
What is the exact size of it? I can't read the little
The
numbers.
garage,
Yeah,
18 by 20.
okay.
And that's as small as that we could make it.
Yeah,
And is, the variance, space, I believe is, do you know how many feet between the two properties?
It's on, I don't know.
Right, I mean, it's
on
not
the survey.
really a very narrow space. There's gonna be plenty of airflow that can get through, to make it sustainable.
all right.
Yeah, so first we're gonna close the public hearing.
Let's close the public portion of the meeting and deliberate here a little bit more. Is there a recommendation here?
Same one here, right?
So I'm open to a motion to, relative to this. Anybody want to make it?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to grant the variance. So I move to grant a variance request from Dana and Eric McKenna petitioning the Zoning Board of Adjustment for relief from Section 32-89 dimension table to permit the construction of a garage within the setbacks on a real property with an address of 18 Prescott Street, tax map U3, lot 29, within the R4 zoning district, as the petition satisfies the 5-part test of the variance statute pursuant to RSA 674-33.
Second.
Are we going over these individually or?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Just do it as a full.
yeah. Or you can do all, you can do
We can do all
one
of them.
if you want.
Okay.
If you want to
We-
deliberate it.
We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Roll call. James?
James votes aye.
Al?
Reluctantly, nay.
Okay. Wayne?
Aye.
I vote aye. You have your variance. It's a nice neighborhood too.
It is.
Thank you.
It is a nice neighborhood.
I know the Boisvert family down the street, so. She's amazing. She's still living up there. I know.
Great.
All right. Second item on the agenda is a variance request by Great Cove Landscaping LLC seeking relief from the Town of Newmarket Code Section 32-53B and 32-56 permitted use to permit a change to previous non-conforming use to another non-conforming use and to allow the property to be used as a landscaping business on real property with an address of 63 Elm Street, tax map U1, lot 48, located in the R2 zoning district. Everybody here to speak to it?
Good evening, my name is Doug MacDonald. I'm with the law firm McKean, MacDonald and Donahue. I'm here to present tonight on 63 Elm Street. The applicant for this property is a potential buyer of the property, Great Code Landscaping LLC. Principal is Kevin Gorski, he's here tonight. The owner of the property joined the application is Jay Toogle, he's also here tonight. If you're familiar with this property, it's a unique commercial property that's accessed from Elm Street down a gravel driveway, which is across a deeded right-of-way. The property then opens up a little bit, and there are there's one building, but there are kind of three pieces of that building that basically back to the railroad tracks. The railroad tracks probably run between maybe 30 to 50 feet along the back of that, parallel to the driveway in the back of the property. The property is pretty large, it's 7.02 acres. However, a great deal, the overwhelming majority of that property is wetlands and undevelopable. It's fairly vegetated around it. Most of the abutters are along Elm Street, so as you go further down Elm Street, they probably can't really see the property because of the large wetland and the trees. In the wintertime, there may be a little bit of visibility. The railroad tracks, there's some neighbors on the other side of the railroad tracks. I don't believe that they have any real visibility of the property. And then across Elm Street is the cemetery. So there's one abutter at the end of the gravel driveway who owns the property that the right-of-way goes across. Currently, it's not really being used, but it's been approved for, and the last use was for an automotive repair facility. But that's been discontinued and is no longer operating. So this use that Kevin would locate his landscaping company there, and he would operate it in a similar manner, same building, same footprint. There is some maintenance kind of deferred issues that need to be attended to make it suitable for his operation, and he intends on doing that. Of course, those would be made in conjunction with, any necessary town approvals and permits and inspections, and would be up to code. We believe that the buildings were built somewhere around 1950, or the building rather, was built around 1950, but that's just information that was available from the public. I don't have any particular proof for that. It's just what seemed to be out there. Prior to the auto repair facility, there was a construction and gravel company. And oddly enough, most of the R2 uses are residential in nature, whether it's nursery home or multifamily or single family, and bed and breakfast. But oddly enough, there is a commercial excavation permitted use and a couple of forestry agriculture permitted uses. I don't know if the commercial excavation would have covered the prior to the auto repair, the construction excavation business, but that, for the most part, would have predated the zoning ordinance regardless. As far as the criteria are concerned, normally the first two criteria are taken together. So would granting the variance be contrary to the public interest, or would it somehow fail to observe the spirit of the ordinance? We don't believe, because of the commercial use history of this property, we don't believe that it alters the essential character of the neighborhood or frustrates the basic zoning objectives. The property will need some updating, which is a net positive. It's always been commercial. The traffic pattern to the property may change a little bit from an auto repair store or site to a landscaping site, which is more standard hours, in and out, employees in and out, vehicles in and out. So that may be a small benefit for the area as well. Putting the property back into a productive use would be nice to see. The R2 district is somewhat of a transitional district from a lower impact or lower intensity R1 residential to a different type of zone that would be a more intense use. So commercial property on the edge of that with these characteristics seems to be fitting with the ordinance. The third test of is whether granting the variance would do substantial justice. We believe it would. The immediate impact of denying the variance would be a loss of the sale of the property, so that would immediately impact the owner. I think it kind of indicates what's a larger issue with this property when it comes to some of its challenges, because the regulatory environment's changed probably since the neighborhood was developed. We got significant wetlands issues there. You have a train track 50 feet away, and development costs these days are much different. So to find any type of use that might fit into the R2 squarely, I think would be a challenge. And so there'd be the immediate loss of the sale, there'd be the challenge to the owner to find someone who could sell it, or who could buy it rather. And then for Kevin, you know, he proposes a reasonable use, changing it from an auto repair to a landscape facility. Doesn't seem to be much of a change in a commercial nature, and again, would allow for some improvements to the property and a productive use, which is also reasonable. The fourth prong, will the property values of surrounding properties be affected? We don't believe so. The properties, as I said, can't really see this property. It's a continuing use of the property in a commercial nature, and it would be better, again, to be a productive use of the property, and the updates that would be required to have Kevin's operation located there would be a net benefit to the property. And then as far as hardship's concerned, I mean, this particular property has some particular challenges with respect to those wetlands and the locations of the railroad tracks if you were going to try to fit into the strict conformance with the R2 district and the permitted uses. It would be very difficult when you see the property and you see where the tracks are and the wetlands are to imagine any type of residential development being placed on that property without any relief requested. I mean, I think even if you were to say we need an R2 use, it would be very difficult to find someone who's willing to develop it in that manner, find someone who can afford to develop it in that manner, and find someone who can navigate the regulatory challenges of developing this particular property. So for those reasons, I'd like to submit the application to you, and hopefully you view it favorably. However, if you have any questions before I sit down, I'm happy to answer them.
For those people that might be watching us in TV land, this is the old Fillion construction site. So a lot of you may know it as that. With that being said, I'd like to open up public comment. Anybody in the audience that wishes to speak for or against this? And meanwhile, the board up here can ask questions and discuss.
I'd like you to go over the hardship criteria again, please.
I'm
sorry, I'd like you to go over the hardship criteria again, please.
Well, the summary of what we had in our application was primarily the wetlands and the railroad tracks and the proximity of those to the property, and the ability to develop within the strict requirements of the zoning ordinance, either a multifamily or a nursing home or a bed and breakfast that would be placed on the property, probably not where the existing building is, so then you end up having to move away from the railroad tracks. And this isn't a huge open area, as you probably know.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're going to be moving into the wetlands buffers, and you're going to end up with wetlands challenges. So, you know, and so there's that piece, but I think that, and I know that this isn't as hardship oriented, but I think as a practical matter, that piece also leads you to think of, okay, who's going to buy it? Who's going to have the ability to develop it? What will it cost to develop it? Will anyone want it if they have to pay that much money to either be looking at a railroad track? And who's going to take the risk of doing all of the permitting work? I mean, I think those two challenges in and of themselves, the wetlands and the railroad. And again, the railroad, I estimated, I just kind of looked down from the front, I think at the Elm Street exit of the driveway, it's maybe 50 feet to the railroad crossing. I think it probably does taper off and give you a little bit more, but I'd be surprised if it gave you more than 50 feet, 60 feet between the property line and the tracks.
Is that unique to the neighboring properties? that criteria?
It's certainly a lot closer than any of the other properties would be. The cemetery's here. I didn't follow the railroad tracks forever. The next closest property would probably be the property that the right-of-way goes across. And that house is sitting up higher, and obviously there's a right-of-way, lawn, and the house. So,
And Sue Bullier's house on the other side of the tracks would be as close as it gets.
Okay.
so that's all but I can go into the, I mean, when we wrote this as a firm, I probably had a little bit more detail on hardship. If you want me to look at that, I can refresh my memory.
Now, is it my understanding that they've got no frontage on Elm Street? Everything comes in through a right-of-way across
Yes.
private property?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I didn't realize that at the time, but
I'm sorry, what?
I didn't realize that from,
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, the only access point is across the right-of-way.
Is across,
The right-of-way, the deeded right-of-way, which is, if you look at that Google picture, it's the little gravel driveway. And the gravel in the back area is not as robust as it looks in that picture. It's a little bit overgrown.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
does anyone in the audience want to speak to it? State your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Bill Ernest, and I live at 69 Elm Street. I'm one of the abutters to the property. So I have a few questions. First question is the board absolutely positive that this is zoned in R2?
I'm 99% sure, but I will confirm it.
I asked that question because properties on that road, Elm Street, have appeared on the tax bills incorrectly.
Look it up right now.
So if it was zoned R2 for, some of you might know him as Fibofillion, Robert Fillion, because there was two Robert Fillions in town. One owned the lumber company and the other one was the construction company. That's Fibber next door.
His property abuts, his old property, 67,
Yeah.
abuts it, right?
Yeah, his property, the Robin property, and the property on the corner all abut the property in question. That was my first question, while you're looking that up, if you could just validate that for me. So the concept here is to create another variance in the R2 district like Mr. Dougal had for his automotive business, so that Great Cove could operate a landscaping business. Is that correct?
Can you repeat that again, please?
Is the concept of the variance before you today to give Great Cove a variance in the R2 district that this property is in to operate their landscaping business, as did Mr. Dougal with his automotive business?
The way it was explained to me was that the automotive business was basically a non-conforming use, and it's been idle for 2 years, so basically you have to come back in and ask permission.
Oh, okay.
That's the way it was explained to me. I may be wrong on that.
Okay, so the landscaping business would be non-conforming,
So this,
right?
That's my understanding.
that's correct. Permitting non-conforming use.
Okay.
So this is the property right here, this is the R2 district.
Yep.
So, yeah, so once you cross the train tracks, you enter the R2 district.
Which way?
From Elm Street going towards Packers Falls. So on the west side of the train tracks would be R2 district. On the east side would be R3. So this orange is R3, and this yellow is R2. And I can't draw on this, see below me. Yeah, okay, so this property right here.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, because I can attest to the fact that some were listed wrong on the tax maps, okay? Mine in particular. All right. So the next question that I have is, what is the intent of Great Cove in reference to the foliage that borders the property, the gravel area that Mr. Fillion filled in the swamp, whatever date that he did that, and what is their intent with the bordering foliage, which is our abutters protection, so that we don't see what's going on in this commercial property?
Oh, I guess you would have to answer that for us,
Okay.
the property owner.
Yeah, we don't have any intent to do anything different there. It's just,
Sorry, can you just go to the mic?
Yeah,
So everyone
Kevin
can
Gorski. We're just gonna leave it the way that it is, just to park our trailers undercover. This is pretty much all it is. We're not planning on
Okay, so
cutting
you're
any
gonna
trees.
leave the foliage that borders the gravel area alone?
We're not touching anything. I mean, obviously, if there's branches that are coming in, we're gonna wanna maintain some sort of
Absolutely.
chaos in there, but, because that Russian olive is crazy in there.
I'm asking that question not only for myself, but other abutters that have asked me that question.
We
Okay.
don't have any intent
We
to,
understand that in the fall, when the leaves go, that you might be able to see over there, but right now, we can't.
everything will stay the same,
Okay,
as
so,
long as we can maintain.
all right, and I listened to the first speaker, and the information that he gave is basically, nobody is going to be able to fill the swamp in or the wetlands, whatever you'd like to call it, anymore than it already is.
Not without a bunch of special permits.
Okay. All right, because there was some land in question, and I knew Fibber real well, and I used to go over there and see him, and there was some land that is parallel to the tracks that is almost not within the 7 acres, it was within the 7 acres, but wasn't filled and could be filled. That is far enough away from the swamp where you might be able to do that. And that's a big question. That would expand their business, which they would be able to do. And I'm in favor of it. I'm not against it. I just want to know that the wetlands won't be filled in, and make you aware that there is a spot on the property that could potentially take more fill, more gravel. All right, so,
You need to get a state permit to fill wetlands.
okay, all right. So it was the wetlands, it was the foliage, it was the zone, and another question that a neighbor had for me is, are there gonna be any 10-wheelers going up and down the road? I know you don't own it, but please answer the question so that it's on record.
Just one 10-wheeler, and it doesn't go out probably twice a week, so.
All right, so, and another question for this gentleman would be, what are the hours of operation? Are we gonna be operating on the weekends? Are we gonna be over there banging and putting in welding and hammering like Fibber used to do, and all hours of the day and night, or is there gonna be some restrictions on that?
We work from 7 to 3.
7 to 3?
7 to 3, and yes, that is the reason why we want to be there also, is so we can work on our equipment.
Right, with the garage,
Yeah,
absolutely.
If it's, I can't see us being there past 7 or 8 o'clock, but again, if something breaks and I need it tomorrow,
Weekends?
then we work usually end of April to the 3rd week in May, we do a Saturday. But it's only because some of the contracts we have in town, obviously they're open during the week, and we like to go in on the weekend so we don't cause a bunch of dust.
Is there any noise restrictions on hours of operations for businesses in the town of Newmarket?
No, check.
I mean, even if there were, we would follow those restrictions.
Yeah, I just like to know what they are, because one neighbor asked me, he lives closer, he bought Fibber's house, and he asked me before I come down here tonight that, you know, if he wanted to have a party on a Saturday night, are they gonna be over there working, banging and hammering?
The answer to that is invite them to the party.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's,
Yeah.
Sorry about that, I apologize.
good
I know
comment.
these might seem like mundane questions, but when
No.
you're a neighbor,
No, correct.
and you don't want to be woken up at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning because they're banging and hammering, then that's what I need to know. I need it on record, what it is.
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now.
Is there anyone else in the audience that might have questions for us?
Just have one question for clarification.
Can you come up to the mic side?
While we get your answer, Mr. Ernest.
This may have already been answered, but I may not have understood it. I'm Marion Riley. I live at 73 Elm Street, a couple of houses down from Bill. Am I to understand this correctly, that you have 7 acres of land, and a lot of it is wetland, so you won't be expanding the footprint of that existing building at
There's-
all?
We've done a fair amount of wetland restorations, so I can tell you that it would take a lot to get a permit to fill even, I don't know what space Bill is talking about, but I don't see any other spot to fill in over there. But again, we just basically, the garage is what we're looking for.
Okay, yeah,
And
that,
having obviously our trucks undercover, which is great.
okay, that was it.
I'm just unaware of the regulation, if there is.
Yeah, I found it.
I mean, I know they'll have to abide by it, but if I have it on record,
So yeah, they would have to follow the regulation under section 20-6 titled noise. 20-6 is the code, which
Okay.
they would have to follow for noise.
okay, what does it say?
Well, that's what I'm looking for right now. Okay, so here we go. So this is 20-6 F2, construction equipment. No person shall operate or cause the operation of any type of construction vehicle to leave it running or stationary within the town between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. If such noise generated by the use of such equipment is likely to annoy, disturb, injure, or endanger the comfort, repose, health, peace, safety, convenience, welfare, or prosperity of any person. This subsection shall also apply to construction activities such as hammering, earth moving, and moving of construction vehicles, project sites during said time periods. We have section 3, loading and unloading. No person shall load or unload or cause any loading or unloading of boxes, crates, containers, building materials, trash cans, dumpsters, similar objects between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. So I would say between that 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. is your threshold
Yeah,
where noise.
well, thank you. You got an extra hour. Having said all of that, I thank you for answering my questions. They were questions not only by myself, but my neighbors. It's on record now. I personally, as long as I can't look out my window and see what's going on, which I shouldn't be able to, I think that the business, if they create it right, with all of the separate little bins that they have, and the big garage over there, that's your intent to repair those?
Yes.
That they, it's a good setup for them. I think that, as long as they don't have a chain of trucks going up and down the street, and they don't take the foliage down, they have to abide by all the rules and regulations, so that's all I got. Thanks.
Thanks for bearing with us.
My name's Rich Alpern, 183 Main Street. I'm not in a butter, but I just have a question about the fact that Elm Street and Beach Street Extension are both no-through trucking roads. Will this board be able to tell him which roads he can use to get in and get out? Because they are both no-through trucking roads.
Oh, we're not trucking.
You said you had a 10-wheeler.
I do, but we're not trucking. I'm leaving to go to
A
work.
no-through trucking road is a road that you're using as transportation, so.
Excuse me, sorry, can you go to the mic?
John Nagorski. A no-through trucking road is a road that you were using to get from one place to another as a cut-through road. A no-through trucking road does not count if that is your destination.
All right. With that being said, I'll close the public input session of the meeting again and open it up to the board for discussion. Do any of you folks have comments or?
I would just go through the number 5, I'd say, the variance criteria.
Yep.
Just as a guide, I'd say.
Yep. Yeah, there it is. All right, is everyone clear on the variance criteria that granting the variance would not be contrary to public interest? And item 2, item B, spirit of the ordinance would be observed. Granting the variance would do substantial justice. The following reasons, the value of the surrounding properties would or would not be diminished. Then unnecessary hardship. Owing to the special conditions of property to distinguish it from other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because A, there is or is not a fair and substantial relationship between the general public purpose of the ordinance provisions and the specific application of the provisions to the property. And 2, the proposed use is or is not a reasonable one because we've got to state why. The criteria in subparagraph A having not been established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable the reasonable use of it. The property can or cannot be used in strict conformance with the ordinance. So that being outlined, do you want to go over the items point by point, or are we?
No.
I think the summary that the attorney
I don't disagree.
gave us was
All right,
comprehensive.
with that being said, then let's consider a motion. I did already.
Here, did it. I'll make a motion to grant. I move to grant a variance request from Great Cove Landscaping LLC petitioning the Zoning Board of Adjustment for relief from Section 32-53B and Section 32-56 Table of Permitted Uses to permit the operation of a landscaping business on real property with an address of 63 Elm Street, Tax Map U1, Lot 48, within the R2 zoning district as the petition satisfies the 5-part test of the variance statute pursuant to RSA 674-33.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We ready for a vote?
Aye.
James? Al?
Aye.
Aye. You have your variance. Good luck and hope it's profitable. Thank you.
Great presentation, thank you.
I didn't know that it was you.
Don't know off the top of my head.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Before we get going, we might need a 2-minute recess just to get the computer set up. Is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah, that's
Great, thank you.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm here. I just wanted to-
We get paid the same.
Save the Sarah bill, okay. There's a
It's town gas.
town guest, I just need the password.
Let me go, I'll be right back.
Sorry, Bart.
Yeah.
Request by Vitality Fitness LLC seeking relief from Newmarket Code Section 32-56 permitted uses to permit parking and/or storage on real property at the address of 191 Exeter Road, tax map R3, Lot 10, in the B1 zoning district. As soon as Bart gets back and gets this going, we'll hear your presentation.
Thank you, yeah, sorry for the delay here.
Oh, it's all right, we'll make her go.
Let's see if it gets through here. You might need that password for the town hall. Does that work?
When you get it, tell me what it is.
No one has it here, huh? All right.
I'm just gonna see if it's like in the hallway.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll
What's that say?
That's the school district upstairs.
Are we still on? Are we still on?
Yes.
I'm in. I'm in. I'm in. I don't know what happened, but yeah.
Okay.
Third time's a charm, I guess.
Thanks so much.
Sure.
That's great.
Now we just have to wait for fearless leader.
Wayne's still here.
I was thinking the other one.
Oh.
Not working. Okay.
There's a
Oh, it's just disconnected.
guest Wi-Fi.
That's what, yeah,
This is
so,
U31.
yeah, I tried that one, it booted me. Let me try that one.
I'm on it. I'm trying to see if I get it. Can always get out of it. Email? Just wait for it. I'm on it, but it's not allowing me.
Okay. I'll do it without it.
Oh,
Yeah, I think so.
Not working?
sorry about that.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That worse happened. All right. Are we good to go?
Yes.
All right, well, sorry about that wait. My name's Josh Lanzetta. I'm an attorney at Bruton and Berube. We're a land use law firm in Dover. For the record, our address is 601 Central Avenue in Dover, New Hampshire. I'm here this evening representing Vitality Fitness LLC in relation to the variance application that's for you on the agenda. And we're asking for a variance to permit parking in the form of storage on Mr. Trelizzi's lot. And this is the subject matter of this lot. It's where everyone knows where Great Bay Fitness is. I'll get the elephant out of the room, if you will, before we get started. So John was here before you guys a month ago about appealing an administrative decision that David Evans made related to this exact issue. So that was an interpretation of parking related to storage and kind of a debate over what that language actually means and those definitions. It's likely that you've seen our appeal into Hillsborough North, into Superior Court. I drafted that. It is separate from tonight's hearing, and it's really not material to what we're talking about, but it's the same issue. I just want to let you guys know, we filed that because we were somewhat forced to. There's a 30-day window once the zoning board in New Hampshire makes a determination, and I think had John and I spoken prior to him coming here for this and to talking to David, we likely could have avoided all of this. And so I watched both of the hearings for that. We filed that appeal, again, because we had to, because of the timing. But after watching you guys talk with John at both hearings and talk with David, it was clear that the variance route was the proper route to go here. And so that's why we're here tonight. So I'm hoping to not dive into that, but I just wanted to kind of get it out of the way. We have filed that. After talking with John Radigan, our hope is that if this is successful tonight, that we would just immediately withdraw that and everyone can kind of move forward in a positive way. So talking about this variance tonight, so I had a presentation for you guys. I was going to go through a few slides just to get everyone acquainted, but I know that you're intimately familiar with this property. It's a kind of flagship property for Newmarket, and everyone's pretty familiar with it. But essentially, it's a triangular lot. The tightest apex of the lot faces south. It's bordered by a state highway to the west. It's bordered by train tracks to the east, and it's bordered by the Calvary Cemetery to the north. It's in the commercial B1 zoning district. And the interesting thing about parking or storage in Newmarket is that there's really no place to locate either of those uses under the ordinance. I addressed the variance criteria specifically in our application. We can let those stand as they are, but I'll quickly go through the criteria tonight. But the request is...
Excuse me, would you repeat your earlier statement about there not being places for storage? I missed what you said.
Sure. So from just looking at the ordinance, when you look at storage, there's a very limited area in this municipality where that is permitted.
Right.
And there is no definition of parking in the ordinance, and somehow parking has been found to be storage in Newmarket. And although I don't necessarily agree with that, we're here asking to allow parking vis-a-vis storage on this lot. Did I get to the point of your question?
Yeah, so the one way to do is change the ordinance, correct?
To do what?
Keep moving the mic down. Oh, sorry. Your mic's standing right
Oh.
up. Yeah.
One way to do it is to rewrite the ordinance so that it includes parking and storage. That would make it easy for us.
That's so to rewrite an ordinance, certainly you can redraft your ordinance at your discretion via the warrant article process.
Yeah.
Or with, through the planning board with an amendment.
Right.
But that's not necessarily available to this applicant now.
Understand
in August of 2024.
Understand.
It's tedious.
It's tedious.
It can be a very long process.
I understand that, but I mean, and I'm not trying to be an obstacle at all. I'm just trying to stick with what we can and what we can't do. Could we add a third thing to that if we wanted to? Parking, storage, and...
Meaning the definition of storage. Yeah, so there are quite a few ways that you could draft your order. I mean, so I've been practicing as a land use lawyer. I have a funny background. I was a general contractor and a carpenter from when I was a little kid in my family. I grew up in the Lakes region. So I was doing zoning hearings when I was a teenager, they would say, hey, or when I was in college, especially, they'd say, college boy, go do a subdivision, go do site plan review for us. So I've been at this now for a pretty long time, but doing zoning law as a licensed lawyer for 20 years. So I've worked all over the country. I went to law school out in Colorado. So I've seen really incredibly robust zoning ordinances working in a couple of enormous cities. I've seen also really anemic zoning ordinances,
Right.
Up north here, especially up in Maine and New
course.
Hampshire, where
Yeah.
you're like, there's no definition of anything, and it's every time something hits the board and there's a new idea, the planners have to then go back and say, oh man, we've got to add, and so that's how they start adding. So
Yeah.
you could do it any number of ways.
Yeah, I gotcha.
But I think here, this is a really operative and appropriate use of the variance process. So if variance truly is a relief valve for when the ordinance doesn't fully consider something, because variance is a really misguided area of law. Not many people, I have a JD, but then I also have an advanced doctoral degree in land use law. So it's like 0.01% of attorneys that might come up here or anywhere in the country have that background. It doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. It just means I paid a lot to go to school, right? I spent a lot of time in school and paid too much money.
You did admit that right in front of your class.
That's right. I really don't. But so I've got this kind of knowledge of how this stuff works. But when we look at variance, it's really misunderstood. And I don't want to lecture and teach tonight, but I teach at the law school. But variance, you apply a zone, and this is the B1 zone. That's overlaid over existing property, and especially east of the Mississippi, where we don't really have plat maps, and in New England, the house I grew up in was built in 1775. On the top of it was a blueberry farm, right? Everything is so old here. And so you apply this ordinance trying to somehow justify and make everything somewhat uniform, but it never works. It's completely impossible, right? That's like trying to drive in Boston and not take a left turn. So you overlay this idea, and it's not the property that causes the hardship. It's the actual zoning ordinance that causes the hardship. And so here, where we have what I don't want to call the baby ugly, but we have a definition that is somewhat hard to kind of fit into this box. Where we're saying, okay, storage, and we went through that, is that parking? And so here in Newmarket, we say, yes, parking is part of storage. Fine. And so what that ends up being here is that we have a commercial lot, Mr. Trevise's lot. We've got kind of this principal structure on it where it was a racket club that morphed into the fitness facility. And there's a lot of parking already present on this lot. I'm sorry.
One of the points we tried to make earlier on was that he's got a lot of underutilized parking on that site.
Yes, and that really was a function, as John talked with you guys about, of a drop in membership because of COVID. Everyone's home, and then really every ordinance applies parking differently, and so you kind of look at, well, what's the capacity of this facility? How many hundreds of parking spots are you going to require? But then really, you're not ever going to fill a facility when people are coming. I lift weights at 5 a.m, but you might go at 6, or someone wants to, So, and here, the other interesting part of this is that this was a phased, when they did the development of this property in the early 2000s, I think it was 2002, they did a phased development. So you have on the south and east side of the property, phase 1 of the parking plan. So it kind of forms an L around the building, and you can see that just through the foliage on the south side, and then you can see the parking at the kind of top of the L through the curb cut on the north side of the property. And then it kind of Z's, if you will, back, and there's a rear parking lot behind the building. That's phase 1, and that was built. Phase 2, which was approved by the planning board at that same hearing and on that same plan, provides for parking connecting the Z, not quite around to the L. And so it connects and continues that lot along the back of the property. So that was looked at and it was approved, although a long time ago now. So here, we're asking to add this use, so the storage use in the B1 zone on the property in addition to John's existing use. Arguably, this use is already happening. So the way that the membership agreement is at Great Bay, the members are signing the same membership agreement to go lift weights, do the racket sports, or to park and do more of a, have this kind of intermittent parking on the lots, right? So it's already happening. But so that's what I'm here asking tonight, is to grant a variance to allow this other commercial use. And I think that when you look at the criteria, the other attorney, I don't know him, slightly misspoke. So the first three criteria are taken together by the courts. They're always separated and enumerated in zoning applications. They shouldn't be, they all basically mean the same thing. But when you look at the first three, we're talking about what does the preamble in the ordinance say, so health, safety, general welfare. And then you link those to, is the use proposed contrary to the public interest? Is it going to be detrimental to the public interest and then the neighborhood? And basically, what's the cost benefit, or not the cost benefit, but is there some sort of benefit burden test that you would look at to look at the first three? Here, we already have a commercial use. We're asking for another commercial use that's arguably a less intrusive use. And so usually when we look at, Bart would be able to tell you how they do this, the planners do it, but when you look at a zone, you're saying, well, what's the most intrusive use of the property in the commercial district? And you might look at traffic in and out, the sort of vehicles that are coming in and out, the sort of, you could have a commercial use that's somewhat offensive to certain people. So what's the most intrusive? Here, a parking or storage facility, which is just parking, where those are more intermittent parking, so it might be a recreational vehicle, it might be a boat that's trailered or a snowmobile trailer. Those vehicles might come in and out every day, or they might come in and out once a week or once a month, or maybe something's parked there for a season. So it's not intrusive at all. It's a very small use on the property, so it's definitely the least intrusive use. And it's not contrary to, you're not creating a safety hazard. You're not gutting your ordinance in any way, because it's actually a commercial use, which this B1 district provides for. Diminution of value is number 4, and arguably, if this lot was somehow redeveloped to add more parking, anytime you add to a lot, and you see probably from buying your own houses or doing a refi, you get a comp appraisal. When you add any sort of use, so here, parking or storage, or when you add a structure or an improvement, property values tend to go up. And if you pull one property's value up, normally that's going to pull the average of the neighborhood up. And here, the use is well within the timbre of the existing uses in this area in Newmarket. The 5th criteria, the last one, I'm going to try to talk faster. Unnecessary hardship. This is the one that gets misapplied all the time. People say, well, there's something on the property that's somehow causing a hardship. That's not the case. Is the ordinance causing the hardship, and is it necessary to apply the ordinance to the property in order to create uniformity? Because that's what the ordinance is trying to do, is just create a uniformity across, in this case, all of the properties in the B1 zone. And here, it's not necessary to limit another commercial use that's less intrusive. And there's just no real rational reason to do that, especially given that the property has so much space. It already has a curb cut, which is approved with DOT. And anything that's done on the property now or in the future is always going to be subject to your zoning ordinance. So it's really not necessary. You're not creating any more uniformity, or really any uniformity, in storage in Newmarket if you prohibit that particular use on the property. So that's all I've got. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm sorry that the digital presentation didn't work tonight. We'll blame it on the Wi-Fi. And I tried to talk as fast as I could.
I'd like to go to the Wi-Fi. This has been my bugaboo. If I understand what you said about the reasonable use and relationship test.
Sure.
I gotcha.
Got it.
But the beginning of it, I believe you made the comment that it's not related to the physical property itself. Is that correct?
Well, so every property is unique. And when you look at the way that that's written in the statute, there's the first part of the criteria. Now, different towns, and forgive me, I don't have it, I would have had it in front of me up on the screen, I don't, but, it might be a 1 or it might be an A. But the first part of the test, which is a reasonableness test, you look at that to say, is it necessary to apply the ordinance to this particular property, given the property's characteristics? And you could say unique characteristics, but then oftentimes there's an or. And it's that if that first part of the test is found to not apply, which here I believe it clearly does, you could then look at, well, what is the uniqueness of the property that might give you some other, and the idea of this is that, and what's funny about zoning in the last 20 years, since I've really been doing it, but ZBAs, and I've seen the shift of like, okay, we're permitting things, we're not permitting things, we're permitting things. But it's not a board of no, it's a board of how do we apply this to each property objectively and uniformly. And that's sometimes lost, and that's what that or is for, so that there's even another way that you could say yes if you don't find that the first part applies. So the property, the characteristics of the property matter if the reasonableness of the proposal is not such that you feel that you could grant it based on that.
Okay. You've been very helpful, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
But again, let me just read this to you.
Sure.
I didn't go to law school. I did take business law, and I got an A, though.
Okay.
Does that count?
I watch a lot of Suits, so
I think
it should.
it's a great show. So
Pretty.
I stayed at Holiday Inn Express.
I was going to say, I almost said it, but I'm glad you did. Okay.
So let me just read it from the ordinance. Unnecessary hardship. The determinative factor to contemplate during the review of an unnecessary hardship criterion is whether or not the property in question possesses unique characteristics, topography, lot characteristics, etc., from other lots in the neighborhood that would necessitate the granting of a variance by the board. And the determinative factor
Sure.
says to me, the thing that determines, you got to cross that line first, or A and B don't relate. In your response, you don't address A, you address A and B.
Right.
It just, it's like black and white that says the determinative factor is the topography. It is not reasonable use. It is not relationship.
Yep.
I have a hard time climbing this mountain every time this thing comes up.
And I think that possibly, and again, forgive me, and I'm on the public record, so we can play Stump a Chump, and someone will put this up on YouTube and it'll go viral. But I think where the consternation might be in that, I was listening to, I heard you say this kind of the same thing before to the other applicants. And I think if you were to actually go look at the statute, somehow Newmarket's flipped this around. And I think that if you want to go with this analysis, with is it determinative and what characteristics of the property. So I think that on this property is pretty easy to argue. But I think that the reasonableness test, looking at, you have to go, so it's a funny thing. You have to take the 5 criteria, then you have to basically, next to them, put the preamble and say health, welfare, and safety.
Got it.
So if you're applying the ordinance in any way that doesn't satisfy those 3 concepts, then you've erroneously applied the ordinance.
I agree.
So then you look at the property and you say, okay, and it's kind of like one of these weird algebra problems from 9th grade, right? And I was terrible at math, that's why I'm a lawyer. But you then apply, or you look at, okay, if you want to look at it this way, you would say, well, what's unique about the property? And here you've got 6.8 acres that's bordered by train tracks, by a cemetery, by a state highway. And the very unique thing about this, because you have to take the property as it now is, which means that you've got this facility on it, but you also have previously permitted phased development of an enormous parking area that's now completely obsolete. So that parking ability on this property should be utilized. And that's not an economic test, right? We're just saying this was already permitted as a parking use, and the way the uses have changed and how the way this definition has changed, it becomes totally unnecessary to apply that to the property. So you're looking at, well, what's on the property now and what does the property permit? And the parking is basically already permitted, but we now need to jump the hurdle of the use. But that's why it's an or, and that's why the reasonableness test, we were saying, is it necessary to my question when I go to court and argue this, and I'm not saying we're not going to court, but what I'm saying is when we argue this, we don't lead with the other 4 criteria, because frankly, they just all mush into that preamble,
Right.
and you could argue a million ways to sundown
Right.
what all those terms mean. And when you look at the cases, they argue them all differently every time. It's crazy. They should be condensed. It should be, how are you affecting the neighborhood? That's what those should say. And then, but this 5th criteria is what we lead with. And it is unnecessary here to prohibit parking on a lot that is in a commercial zone where parking is the least intrusive use that you could have on the subject lot, and the parking has already been permitted previously through a valid municipal permitting process. And so to me, that's as reasonable as it has ever been to say, well, this isn't a use that's easy for this lot owner to have on the property. It's already set up for it. The curb cut with DOT is already there, and it's still now subject to your zoning. So that's how I would apply it first, and then, or if there's something super weird about the property, but here, I'm using those 2 words kind of intentionally, here, the parking's already been permitted.
You know, as a business guy, I do real estate. As a business guy, I get it.
Yeah.
Is his situation a reasonable one? And I'm probably talking too much here, but I get it. But if there were an or in here, I would totally understand what you said.
It's in the statute, though, that's the problem.
Well, then I've got to get off this boat.
Yeah.
Because my time here, we have, I won't get it.
But even there, and so I appreciate the discourse, I really do. For me, it hinges on, are you creating more safety by prohibiting parking or vis-a-vis storage? No. Are you affecting the general welfare in some negative way?
Got it.
Or are you helping the general welfare by now having the ability to have this sort of service in Newmarket? Right? And so safety, general welfare, and then how the public is operating in and around this property is not going to substantively or materially change.
Yep.
And so to me, I look at the preamble, I look at the existing property and all the stuff I kind of listed off and say, this is exactly why there is this is why there is this relief valve to say, man, we didn't consider this would possibly happen. It seems like this should be permitted on this particular property. So that's, to me, I think that it's pretty clear. But I agree that I see what you're saying.
So Al, so where it shows on this page the 5 criteria, it explains there are 2 elements.
What page you?
All right. So where
The
we
town
have
of Newmarket?
Summary.
So the summary of the 5 variance criteria.
His?
No,
This is
the
ones
definition,
Dave
the
put
Newmarket.
This
This
one.
one, yeah, that's
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Oh, so it lists out the relationship test and reasonable use test, right? So go back 1 page, right? So go to where it shows over here. Okay, it shows the public hearing process.
That page right there.
Gotcha.
Okay, so bullet 5, it says review of variance criteria and establishing finding of fact, right?
Yep.
Go down to where it says unnecessary hardship,
Yep.
letter E. So you got dot I,
Yep.
owing to special conditions, and then double dot I.
Yep.
The criteria in subparagraph A having not been established, which would be the relationship test. An unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used in the strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to establish reasonable use of it. So that is, in my opinion, the or that you're looking for,
It is.
right?
It is. Yeah.
That's how I'm interpreting it.
Yeah, and I think you're right.
Yeah, so
I think you're right. This, unfortunately, I've been looking,
Every time we deal with hardship, it's one of those things, it's mental gymnastics. I get home and my,
It's,
Yeah.
and it's intended to be, so thank you.
Sure.
I don't have that right in front of me.
Yeah,
The second subpart, which I call B, usually
Yeah.
it's 1 sub A
Yeah.
or sub B. It's that you apply A, and B is there if A doesn't work,
Right.
as another way to make this not a board of no, but a board of yes, because the intent is
Yep.
to say, how do we help the applicant
Well-
do what they're trying to do?
Right.
and this board is very pro,
yeah,
we're very pro,
we're firm believers in property owners'
If
right to
you
use
own
their
it,
property.
Yeah,
This is not Massachusetts.
that's good.
can I ask just one more question?
Yeah, please do.
Seeing as how you teach law. This is free?
I don't know if I'm doing a good job yet, let's see.
It's free?
Yeah, all free.
Financial hardship?
Yes,
Is that a hardship?
it should be.
We have used it in the past.
We
Yeah,
have.
it should
Really?
be.
Yes.
Yeah. So throughout most of the country, there is a body of law that talks about economic hardship and about limiting. So kind of the way that some of the law developed, so zoning ordinances all start in the 60s, and a lot of towns don't get them until early mid 70s, and some towns in New Hampshire didn't get them until like the late 70s.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Newmarket.
So initially it was, well, we're restricting your property right. And maybe you can argue that that restriction hurts you economically and you should be allowed to then do whatever it is you want
Right.
economically. But that guts an ordinance when you say, well, we want to keep the pig farms over here and the mechanic shops here and then the residents. So that didn't work. So then it came back to, okay, let's create something called economic hardship, and then say, well, that doesn't count if you have some other economic use of your property, which is like it references back to basically eminent domain law,
Yeah.
which does not apply to this at all. Because eminent domain, they say, well, if there's some
Right.
value, then you have value, which is, we all know that that's completely unreasonable. Like, no one has ever read those cases or thought about that, so that makes sense. That's so the government can get your property for cheap, right? And so it's now starting to shift back, and there are a lot of states that say, no, there's an economic loss here, where it's like, well, if we can't do X, and if X is reasonable on a property, so here, or take this argument out of it, but when you have a commercial zone, and there's 50 things allowed, and there's some, but they forgot to include dry cleaner, and then a guy comes in and he specializes in being a dry cleaner, says, well, why can't I do that here? That hurts my business. I just bought this property, now I can't do the business that I know how to do. That should be considered, I think. And here in New Hampshire, I believe that there are cases that allude to that, and then they do some, they'll bob and weave, but they do look at it and say, oh, that doesn't seem right?
And now we have considered financial hardship in the past for cases too.
The guy comes in, he buys a lot and gets into there, and all of a sudden he realizes that ledge is gonna be
I get-
$300 a cubic yard.
Yep.
That's the topography, though, I get it.
Yeah.
We do business in Cambridge,
Yeah.
and if we went to the ZBA in Cambridge and said, we need to build a 5-story building, because a 4-story won't be profitable.
Right. Nope. Well, so, and that's where it starts to get.
You bought it.
Yep, it
Right.
starts to get debatable, I would say, I think if they were to rewrite the treatise on this, that it's going to start changing. Because the property has been so alienated at this point, but we're getting,
Yeah,
we're
anyway,
getting in the
thank
weeds,
you
yeah.
very much.
Yeah, we're getting in the weeds. But so we're asking that you approve this variance tonight based on that, what we've already stated here.
Well, should I open up the public?
Do it, I dare you.
Let's open up the public session for a little bit, and we can discuss it here amongst ourselves a little bit more. I'm of the opinion that this is a really, really good use of this land. You've got a recreational facility there already in place. It's a known location. You're just adding to it.
Yep.
These are RVs we're putting in there. It's a good use of the excess parking that the town made them put in. It was through no fault of his own. He's got twice as much parking as he needs. So, in my opinion, it's an ideal application. And I might be so bold as to say, maybe it doesn't have to be limited to members.
Sure.
I'll speak, that's the way we structure it.
I know, that's fine. And my hat's off to you. I think it's a wonderful idea. I just wish we had brought it up a long time ago so we wouldn't be going through this.
Yeah, I have no issues with this.
Okay, seeing as how nobody's speaking to it, I'll close the public input session. And are we ready for
I'm gonna make a motion to grant.
okay?
Oh, wait, we already closed public, right?
Yeah.
All right. Motion to grant, move to grant a variance request from Vitality Fitness LLC petitioning the Zoning Board of Adjustment for relief from Section 32-56, Table of Permitted Uses to permit leased parking and/or storage on real property with an address of 191 Exeter Road, tax map R3, lot 10, within the B1 zoning district with the following conditions as a petition satisfies a 5-part test of the variance statute pursuant to RSA 674-33. Conditions of approval. All leased parking and/or storage shall be contained to the parking area located in the northwestern corner of the property behind the section of building fronting Exeter Road. Only leased parking and/or storage of recreational vehicles, boats, and trailers shall be allowed. All leased parking and/or storage shall not be visible from Exeter Road, and leased parking and/or storage shall not be housed within a structure of any kind.
I'm going to second that, and thank you folks for accommodating my questions.
We have a motion and second. Is there any discussion on that? If you're, if you think you want to put an amendment to that, now's the time. Otherwise, we'll vote on it.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, did I mess up?
Read number 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, read number 2 again.
I clicked the wrong one. My bad. All right, I'm reading number 2 as a change. All parking and/or storage shall be contained to the parking area located in the northeastern corner of the property behind the section of building fronting Exeter Road. I apologize. Thank you for the correction.
All right. That was just a correction, so.
Yeah, just a correction.
You want to give them a little time to discuss?
Pardon?
You want to give them a little time to discuss?
Do they want to see the motion?
Yeah, I'll give that to them. Josh, you want to look at this? Just give them a little time to discuss.
Yeah, do you
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm listening. Just give them time.
Can I move to reopen, just quickly, since we're closed?
No, you're fine. It's the public
Okay,
session.
great, thank you.
You're petitioner here, that's fine.
So I agree. I've had a number of recent applications where the public hearing was closed and I wasn't able to come back up. And I tried to motion in and explain that we were the
No,
applicant. So anyways,
we're very accommodating.
thank you. I appreciate that. So we were talking about, so there's, and again, I apologize for not having the presentation of. But so we have phase one, which is currently built on the property. And then there's phase two, which was not built but approved in the back. So it's all behind the building. The hope was to approve, or the ask was to approve the use. And so my question is, or my request would be to approve the parking in the area of phase one that is on the east side of the building, but then also permitted in the phase two potential development if Vitality wants to expand that parking in the future. It's already permitted. Now that would have to go,
Will that turn into east then?
that would be down the eastern
East,
border.
southeast?
Yes, it would, so
Behind
starting
the building.
north, it would go
It's all behind it.
It'll be all
east,
behind the building.
and southeast. It's already approved, and it is behind the building. And when I went by today, I came by slowly, and I've done a bunch of permitting kind of right in that area over the years, and it is really screened. You can't see that lot or where it would be from the state highway, from the southern aspect
Yeah,
or the northern aspect. One, because of the foliage, and two, because of the building. So it would really be, and we could pull that up on the touchscreen if you want to see. But so the request would be to approve the use, and then to allow the potential. And I don't know that you would need to specifically allow it, but the way this is drafted, it would prohibit the further development of phase two. Which again, if the intent is to hide it for aesthetics, it is all behind the structure and on the far eastern boundary of the triangle.
So the stuff that's there now by the tanks, that's gone.
Right, that would not be permitted.
Right.
Yeah.
So anything that would be permitted would be out of sight.
Yeah, it would be in the phase two part of the development,
How
which would
about,
be
how about this
behind.
language? All parking and/or storage shall be contained to the parking area located in the northeastern, eastern, and southeastern corners of the property behind the section of the building fronting Exeter Road.
I think
That's the GAN.
I think that's fine. Basically connecting phase two.
Basically, that's phase two, so you have northeastern right now, and you got eastern behind the building, then
Yep.
southeastern, it's kind of like going towards the
Yep,
road. there.
exactly. That'd be great.
That fine?
Yeah, that'd be great,
You
John.
want to reread?
Good.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
I will reread that second part. All parking and/or storage shall be contained. Sorry.
Why don't we withdraw the second,
Yeah.
just
All
make a
right.
whole new motion?
All right. I withdraw everything I've said for this motion.
Is there a second? Second?
Second.
All
All
right.
those in favor?
Aye. Cool. All right. Motion to grant. Move
Is there
to.
a second?
Oh boy. All right. Move to grant a variance request from Vitality Fitness LLC petitioning the Zoning Board of Adjustment for relief from Section 32-56, Table of Permitted Uses to permit leased parking and/or storage on real property with an address of 191 Exeter Road, tax map R3 Lot 10, within the B1 zoning district with the following conditions as the petition satisfies the 5-part test of the variance statute pursuant to RSA 674-33. Conditions of approval. The term parking and/or storage means the parking and/or storage used as a second primary use on the property and does not include parking that is subordinate and customarily incidental to the current use of the indoor recreation facility. All parking and/or storage shall be contained to the parking area located in the northeastern corner of the property, eastern part of the property, and the southeastern part of the property behind the section of building fronting Exeter Road. Only parking and/or storage of recreational vehicles, campers, boats, and trailers shall be allowed, and parking and/or storage of recreational vehicles, campers, boats, and/or trailers shall not be housed within a structure of any kind.
Second.
Did I miss anything? All right.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion on that? All right, a vote is in order.
I'll
James?
break the ice. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, have a good night.
You too. Thanks for the education.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I didn't mean to lecture too much.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, thank you.
Trust me, we wrestle with these things all the time, so anytime we can get a little bit of education value out of
I
it.
could tell by how it was like, oh, okay, this is.
Yeah.
Well, when you
But
get,
I know you were struggling with the other one too.
well, when you get old, the light comes on slowly.
It's the
Yeah.
step of it. I was reading it the way you did.
You didn't help me last time.
That's why we have Josh.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yep. Got some announcements, okay.
For
Yeah.
this, or?
I got master plan survey, round 2. If you guys want to take it, you gotta use that link there. Or if you're fancy with
To sign in?
Yeah, exactly. You can find it on the town website, that's easy. Basically, it's just to help the planning board and the master plan subcommittee guide.
I thought these were Red Sox tickets.
Would it help? You sure you want to go to a Red Sox game?
Not lately.
Yeah. But no, it would be really helpful, all of you and people out there who want to take it. It just really helps, guide the process and helps guide the planning board and those volunteers developing the chapters, write something that's effective in the vision of the town. So, based on comments.
We can just use the QR code on the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Yeah, that's not ours, that's the art, that's the art commission, but, and then, also on September 14th, it's a Saturday, I know, but we're gonna have another community session at the school, kind of like we did last March. So, so basically it'll just be another opportunity to voice your opinion.
So all of you out there in TV land, come on out and learn about your master plan.
Yeah, and if anyone has questions, please reach out to the planning department. I'm happy to talk to you.
When do you expect the master plan
To be done?
to be done?
Probably June 25, July 25-ish. We'll have all the chapters drafted and we'll probably have to start the public hearing. So that summer, summer 25.
Then it'll be time to start on the next iteration.
We get 10 years, Bob.
I know.
So, yeah. But it's always good to start planning, right?
I know.
I watched your planning board session the other day. You've got a really fine group of people
Yeah,
working
no.
on it.
I'm really happy with that board. Really insightful, or it's a good group to
Yeah.
have these conversations.
Yeah.
Is there anything else to bring up before this board, before we adjourn?
No, just thank you for your volunteering. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's magnanimous.
It's a good one. Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
You were so much help to this